The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. My name is John Skis, and I'm the Director of Media for TAPS. We're going to get started with this Drumline webinar in just a couple of minutes. But first, I've got some housekeeping things that I'd like to go over. So, first and foremost, this webinar is being recorded. We're going to make that recording available on the TAPS YouTube page. You can find that at youtube.com/tapsbiz. There's also going to be a link to that YouTube page in the follow-up email that you will get later today after the webinar concludes. Second, if you have any questions, please use the questions interface in the GoToWebinar that you'll see there on the right side of your screen. We're going to try to answer them as we go along, but if we don't get to your question right away, don't worry about it. There is a question and answer session at the end, so we're going to save all those questions we don't get to, and we will answer as many as we can. If we can't answer your question, or we don't have time, or it's just too detailed, too in the weeds for us to answer appropriately in this venue, go ahead and send us an email, info@taps.biz, as soon as the webinar is over, or call the office, and we can get you an answer. Let's see. Third, I'm working from home. Some of the guys are in the office, so if you hear dogs barking or kids screaming, I apologize for that. I am joined today by Brian Bunselmeyer, the TAPS Executive Director, Robert Huckabee, the Director of Compliance, Steve Prudhomme, our Associate Director. We've also got Will Dixon helping us from the office today. He's behind the keyboard over there. Vina Williams, our Fine Art Director, can't be with us today. We apologize for that. Before I hand it over to Robert and Brian, I'm going to do a quick poll. We would like to know who is with us today. So our attendees, if you could tell us what your role at your school is, if you're an athletic or fine arts director, if you're a band director, an assistant band director, another staff member at your school, or not a staff member at a TAPS school. I'll leave that open for a couple of seconds. If you guys could let us know what your roles are. We're at 25% voted. I'll leave this open for a few more seconds. All right, I'm going to close the poll. Thank you, folks, for letting us know who you are. And going to hand it over to Robert and Brian.
All right, John, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to run through some information we want to share with you. Obviously, also open it up for questions. As John mentioned, if you have questions or think of questions as we go through our information, just type those there, and we'll get to those as soon as we can. Hopefully at a time it's relevant to what we're talking about, but if not, we'll catch them all at the end and be able to help. I'm going to turn it over to Brian now and let him give some opening comments.
Just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us here today. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday morning. I know school is wrapping up and most of you have a lot to still do before you can get out of school. For those of you that attend the webinar later and watch it on YouTube, thank you for joining us and reaching out as well. We wanted to give a quick webinar to all of the fall activities. We were able to conclude all but 3 or 4 last week to give you kind of an idea of what's going on now and what's going to go on in the future as we go across the summer months leading into the fall, and just kind of give you a reassurance of what our plans are so that maybe that can help you make your plans, and also give you the opportunity to ask any questions you have at the present time based on last year's or previous performances and what we're expecting for this year. As John said, Vina will not be here with us as a presenter today, but she will have access to all the questions. And as always, you can email us here at info@taps.biz, and we'll get those questions answered as soon as possible. So Robert, lead us off into this webinar.
All right, thank you, Brian. One of the things that we obviously all dealt with throughout the spring in ending the school year was if we were going to be able to reopen or not. That did not happen, as everyone knows. We hung on as long as we could to try to provide an opportunity for our championships and activities and all of our fine arts and athletics that were affected by the spring schedule. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So now we've begun to move into our summer phase. Want to share some thoughts and ideas about that, and then also look at our calendar moving into the fall and what the fall might look like. Our next topic is reopening campus. Brian, share some comments with us about that.
The biggest questions we've had about campuses reopening in the fall is, what is it going to look like for me? What is it going to look like for those across Texas? So as we stand right now, we've talked to an awful lot of people from the four corners of Texas, and it continues to be we don't know how we're going to open. Schools are planning to return as normal with 8 period days, 5 days a week. We have some schools that are planning to be virtual 1 week, in class the next week. We have schools that are virtual 1 day, in class the next. We've got those that, to keep the 50% of my classroom occupied situation, I'm going to be half my students 1 day are live, half the students are virtual, and then they flip the next day. So there's a whole myriad and just a mountain of ways to come back. Right now, we're planning on reopening from the TABS perspective. We're keeping our calendar in the fall, just like we did in the spring. We're going to try to hold on to the dates that we have. Obviously, if we have to push back, we will. Our hope is that we will all be reopened, schools, et cetera. But as you reopen your campus, one of the important things about Drumline and music in general is it's more co-curricular than extracurricular. Your performances are your extracurricular part, but some of you are doing Drumline and fall band outside the school day. For the most part, though, it has a value towards a GPA or a class. So as you reopen your campus, we hope you keep us in mind with Drumline. Robert's got a couple other things to say, and then we'll jump into the meat of what we have here today.
All right, thank you, Brian. The next slide is our kind of standard disclaimer we've had throughout the last few weeks as we've tried to give updates to our schools and share information about what's going on in the school world, what we can or can't do. The information we're going to share with you today is really mostly TAPS related, things that are coming up in the summer, things to plan for. But we want you to keep in mind, anything we share here is always subject to whatever local, state, and national orders or restrictions might exist for you in your particular locale. Texas is a very big state. We know from talking to a lot of our member schools that some areas of the state are affected very little by what's going on, and they're kind of almost normal, while other areas are hot spots and they're dealing with a lot of issues. So we've had a lot of discussions about that, taking all that into consideration and trying to glean through all that information. We've got some information we're sharing with each of our fall activities, and just keep in mind as we walk through this, you still, as we all are, even here with what we do in the office on a daily basis, we're still walking through that process of complying with all those local and state executive orders and recommendations that should apply to us. Next topic is Rank 1. We've got, as we've gone through this year, Rank 1 has created an entire fine arts mode within their system. As you know, it started last year with the athletic director at your school kind of being the gatekeeper of the person that was going to be getting information from everybody at your school and getting all your students into Rank 1. There is now a completely separate fine arts mode. The athletic mode, if you will, kind of has a blue background, and the fine arts mode kind of has a maroon looking background. So it's easy to identify and toggle in between those. Obviously at your school, somebody will make determinations about who has access to what, but in the fine art world, you're going to be able to put all your people in there. If you're the director of a particular program, assistant director, it's very, very important for us to have all those people in there, because that's how we're going to communicate with everyone over the course of the summer and then moving into the school year. Brian, share some comments on that.
So last year, as we moved into Rank 1, to say it was bumpy is probably an understatement. Some of you had to climb mountains, and the molehills even became mountains. So to that, we apologize. Rank 1 has worked very hard with us over the summer and will continue to work as we go into the fall. In the past, you would have had your information in Tapster. We were able to pull from that and also send emails. So as you get your information in Rank 1, your directors and assistant directors, et cetera, we'll be doing the Rank 1 pushes, which will say you have a message in your message center in Rank 1. So we just highly encourage you, once you get your Rank 1, if you're like we are, you open that up as one of the tabs on your desktop and check your message center each day. Another thing that's going on, and just as a reminder, last year the board approved us moving both Drumline and field and marching band under the umbrella of instrumental music. So you're only paying one fee to participate in all instrumental music. So Drumline, you would just have your fee, we'll talk about later, but you'll only have your entry fee at the time of the event to cover there. So get all the information, including your roles at the school. And also, if you would, make sure we have a cell phone number and an email that's accurate for you. Sometimes we understand it's easy to just put the fake stuff in just to get the profile completed, but we really appreciate your information being accurate so we can communicate with you the best we can.
Thank you, Brian. Next slide talks about student profiles in Rank 1. Rank 1 is our database for all of our student information, for all of our eligibility, for all of our staff, sponsor, director, and coaching information. That's all accumulated and tracked through Rank 1. So another aspect of Rank 1 that'll be important as you move from this year to the next school year, there is a process where you promote your students in Rank 1, just like you probably do at your school with whatever database you use there at your school. Rank 1 has been reaching out to our schools. They've conducted a lot of webinars already over the past several weeks in helping our schools walk through that promotion process. It's not a complicated process. It doesn't take very long, but somebody at your school who is kind of in charge of Rank 1, if they haven't already done it, please find them and encourage them to get that done as soon as possible. Rank 1 can help walk through that. There are just a couple of buttons you need to make sure you click correctly to make sure it's done well and you don't have any issues going forward. Then moving into the next year, all the forms and everything for next year will be there ready to go. Remember, in Rank 1, the parents have to go in, they have to set up an account and complete their student profile each year. That's very, very important. So we have that database of information in Rank 1.
So to kind of reiterate the importance here of the student profile, last year for the fine arts, we were kind of doing a combo mode between Tapster and Rank 1. Rank 1 you need to have your students in there and have your information accurate. That will be your new entry portal for the academic, the arts, all of the fine arts, including music. We will probably still use Tapster on the back end for our side to be the meet manager, but your interface will be Rank 1, and those forms will be coming up as the summer goes across. So make sure you get your students in there. You'll definitely want to be able to include them as we move forward. Another part of this, and I'll just jump on, Robert, is student health. So the UIL and many states across the nation have included fall band, which would include, in our case, Drumline, in their health initiatives. So while you may not have to have a physical for one-act play, you do have to have one for Drumline and fall band, just like you do the fall athletics. So as you look, each student, after they create that profile, each student will have to have a medical history form, and that's a form that your school's been collecting for years. And we will continue to collect. This as a digital form. The family goes online in that profile that they're creating and they answer several questions. Obviously, it would be of great benefit for someone at your school, hopefully your school nurse or trainer, to look at it. It's always good to know someone has a peanut allergy ahead of time, and instead of finding it out in the wrong time when they're on the bus or in the van with you and they eat a peanut butter sandwich. So the medical history form is going to be required. The UIL has pushed physicals back for a year. What TAP says is if you have a current physical, it's good until such time as the student and family can replace it. So prior to coming back in the fall, we'd love for every young man and woman that's participating in anything, drumline, fall band, cheer, dance, or the athletics that are requiring of a physical, to have that physical. But we understand they may not be able to get into the doctor right now, or if you're like me, maybe you don't want to go to the doctor right now. Maybe that 6 foot distancing and being around sick people is not high on your list. So every student will have a medical history form. Your nurse or whoever your school sets up can review that and give you that recap so that you'll know who has asthma, who has whatever. And then the student physical form, the students will go through there, and that will be loaded as well. So this is for high school. If you have junior high students, 8th graders that are going to participate, they'll also need to be in Rank 1, and you can do those on an individual basis. Robert, is that correct from what I understand?
Yes, that is correct. And if you have any questions about that, reach out to us. We can help walk through that. If there's something on the Rank 1 end that you need help with as well, they're very good. They have great customer support, and they do a great job of helping our schools walk through that. So as a recap, Rank 1, make sure you have all your students in, make sure they have all their information up to date, make sure you have all your staff. And if you have multiple roles at your school, please make sure that in rank 1, you're marked in all of those roles, because if you have a role in one area, we're going to send updates and emails to that particular group. If you're checked and marked in there in that role, you'll receive those. If you have a role in a totally different area of an activity or an athletic event within TAPS, and you're not checked in that role, then you won't get those updates in that area. So that's going to be very, very important. I know some of you teach full time, you have multiple responsibilities. Some of you have a lot of different roles at your school. So please help us with that so that we know we're communicating with the people that need that information. Our next topic is TAPS calendar. I think, John, you've got a couple of poll questions here we're going to go through right quick.
Yes, sir. So, folks, if you could let us know, if you know, what your first day of school for the 2020-2021 school year is. And that poll is live right now. The week of August 3rd, August 10th, 17th, 24th, or 31st, if you would let us know. If you don't know, you can leave it blank. Or if it's not on this list, you can drop it in the questions form. Leave that open for just a second. Looks like almost everybody is oh, nope, 10th and 17th. Leave this open for a few more seconds. Looks like 30% of you have voted. And again, if you don't know, that's fine. Just leave it blank. And if it's not on that list, just drop it in the questions. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. Thank you, folks. And we would also like to know if you, we're asking everybody this, we'd like to know about your enrollment. If you guys think your enrollment is forecast to increase or decrease, or if you don't know. Give it about 10 more seconds and I'll close this one. Looks like we got a few more people who are voting. All right, I'm going to close this poll and hand it back to Robert. Thank you, folks, for letting us know.
All right, thank you, John. Okay, Brian, we're on calendar, so walk our folks through some important dates they need to be thinking about as we end the summer and move into the fall.
So the important dates for Drumline, August the 7th, we're going to do an introductory webinar where we go through how to enter, walk through the registration process, how to include it on your contract, etc. Then we're going to have your eligibility forms need to be done before you. So once you get your students in rank 1, prior to your first performance, if you're performing, your first performance is football, that's the last week of August right now. So you would need to have your students in there and move forward. And then our championships, circle that date on the calendar right now, are scheduled for October 19th. Of course, that date is always subject to change based on whether COVID-19 or some other natural disaster comes, or whether it's just good old rain that we seem to struggle through as well. Like the fog last year, we'll be prepared to do the best we can. So as you look at the important dates and you look at what's up there, the initial sign up is on your contract. So it's not a fee-based thing, but when your school signs up for instrumental music, if you plan on doing Drumline, we'd sure like to have that on the contract so we can get you on the contact list. And Vina will be sending out an email in early August as well to, if you didn't get it on your contract and you'd like to add, last day to add that will be October 1st. One of the big questions that always comes up is, when is the schedule going to be released? What division am I in? We're not changing any of the divisions or the rules that are how you get in there. Those are all posted on the Drumline pages of the bylaws. If you go to taps.biz, top right hand side in the big bar at the top, it says bylaws. Click on bylaws and then scroll down to the music section, and you'll get to Drumline. So our classifications and our divisions are still going to be the same. We'll have that middle school, high school division, then we'll have tier 1, 2, 3, etc. The schedule release, we're going to do our very best to get our schedule released 2 weeks out, which means that we're going to be pushing you a little bit harder now for information. We can only provide a schedule once we get your information, but we will do our very best to get those released. The other side of that is, if your drumline is performing with your band, that gives Vina a little time to massage when you perform each one and where each tier will go to make sure that the students can participate in all opportunities they need. So the event date again is October 19th. Very important date. That's when we plan on having our competition. The next topic here is the convention. Basically, July 9 and 10, we will have our convention in Waco. Instrumental music and drumline are both a part of the speaking opportunities and clinics. So Vina's working hard to grab a couple of good folks there to come talk about drumline and building a drumline and maturing a drumline. Some of you are just now beginning, and some are already at that stage where it's rolling on its own. So if you're a drumline instructor and you'd like to make a presentation for one of those courses or 50-minute courses, please, when you get the email that says, would you like to sign up and present, please fill that out and we'll get back with you. So again, the calendar is pretty succinct for us. September 1 on your calendar, you'll get an email from Vina as well asking, are you coming? Your entry deadline will be in October 1st, a couple of weeks ahead of the October 19th deadline. So just a quick recap there. And then we're going to jump ahead. Robert, what's next for us?
All right, I think we're going to try to jump to the TAPS website. Give us a second here for Will to try to get that set up for us. And then we want to walk you through kind of where to go and where to find things on the website.
We're a little happy that we have the website. Over the last couple of days after our announcements of Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, the website's been a little tested, but it's up now. So if you go to taps.biz, www.taps.biz, click on the Fine Art tab over on the left-hand side at the top in the black bar, scroll down till you get to music and click on Drumline. So taps.biz, Fine Arts, and Drumline. You'll click on that, and it will take you to the Drumline page. This information is going to be updated over the next couple of weeks. There's your important dates, your rules, link in the red, goes straight to the TAPS bylaws. Honors will show you who won and how they did last year. FAQs, will be updating those as we get questions from you. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out on that Contact Us tab. If you look at this website on the right-hand side where it says in green 2020 webinar recap, that will be our web blog for Drumline. So whenever we send an email or a push notification through Rank 1, it'll also be posted here. So again, if you've got a situation where you can just open that bookmark this tab and come to this page, it'll give you the latest, and then you can scroll back on the older entries as well. Championship information is where we'll list the maps and where to go and when to go. If you were with Drumline last year, and even if you weren't, we're planning on going to Waco ISD again. They've invited us back. They were great hosts. They did everything they could for us. We found it a challenge to be on the baseball field for Drumline. In many ways, we liked it because it was its own performance venue. The seating was excellent for folks that could come. However, getting y'all through the muddy outfield seemed to be a little more of a challenge than we anticipated. So what we're trying to do right now is get the softball field number 1, which is up next to the football complex. So you wouldn't have to walk as far, but you'll be on AstroTurf or turf the whole way, so the weather won't have an impact. So that's where the championship information will be. Again, on this page, you see that you got the Drumline checklist is there for you. That will be updated here in the next week or so. You'll have the schedule as soon as we can, your stadium map, and then the judge and clinician bios. So again, after we started this way back when, and it was a dream that Jeremy Thornton, our associate director at the time, and Jeff Shelton and I sat down and we really started creating. The clinician was a big part of this. So yes, you're going to perform. Yes, you're going to look to see whether you can get ranking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's extremely important, but also it's the clinician part of this to help you get better and to help your young musicians get better. So we feel very good about getting our clinicians again with whether it be Roll-Off or Innovative or whoever it is that's there to provide that. But we look at those as being extremely important. Right next to where it says Drumline checklist and schedule, you also see the Twitter feed for TAPS Instrumental Music. We're really trying to promote you, and we're trying to promote all of the student activities and TAPS. So as you tweet stuff out this fall about your drumline in the stands or in your practice or your rehearsal, if you're tweeting it out, make sure you include us. John can give a little more instruction later, but make sure TAPS Instrumental is part of your social media plan so that we can continue updating and keeping people informed of where you are and where you want to be. So again, taps.biz, click on Fine Arts, click on Drumline. It should take you to everything pretty much Drumline self-contained right there. More information will be added in the coming weeks as we break out of 1920 and start moving forward to the 2021 school year.
All right, thank you, Brian. If you have any questions relative to the website or any information on there, you can always reach out to our office and we'll always help you walk through that and help you with where things are located, where to find information. We're going to pop back to our presentation. And Brian, you alluded to some of this already, but just give us an overview of Drumline, what our folks can expect in that competition.
As I said before, the tiers haven't changed. So you have your middle school, high school division. You'll have your tier 1, 2, and 3. Those are based on your classification and your squad size. So most of the questions that come to us over the years have been based on, why can't you tell us earlier which tier I'm in or who I'm competing against, or I want to know early. Well, we can know early that you're going to compete. You'll get that on your contract, or we'll get that on our survey. Until you actually put your entries in there about October 1st, we're not going to know exactly how many people you're going to bring or present. Obviously, some folks are leaving some people behind. They have them on their roster for playing in the stands or playing at pep rallies, but they don't bring them to competition. So I think it's just very important right there that we will get that information as soon as possible. The tiers have worked out well, and I think we will continue with no change from what Dean and I have talked about. There will be minimal changes to the tiers, if anything, and it will basically be once we look at the incoming folks, how that will work out. So the other part of that is your music selection can be original or a documented source. So I know that we've had some schools, but their performance has been created by folks on their own campus or previous students. So we feel like that's really good. So again, students in grades 8 through 12 may participate in the tier 1 through 3 drumline, and students in grades 6 and 7 may only participate in the middle school, high school division. But we'll have all that. So if your middle schoolers are planning on competing and participating with you, please make sure you get those in rank 1. Each school gets to have one drumline. We were asked last year, can we separate and do 2 or 3? And the answer to that is no. Each school only gets 1. And the other side of that is we were asked, well, how large or how small? To be honest with you, the upside is unlimited, and but we do look on the bottom side. The smallest one we had last year was 4. They did an excellent job of their presentation. So we're here to try to be as inclusive as possible, and we will separate, like I said, tiers 1 through 3, and tier 4 will be middle school and high school. Your entries as you go forward, one selection. There are some opportunities there for your timelines and your time limits, and those have been unchanged. Those will be on the competition and the championship tab on the TAPS website.
Okay, Brian, you alluded to it when you kind of described the format. We have a question here about the tiers, and the tiers are based on group size and not by size of school or school classification. Why do we do it that way?
If we had more participating, we would definitely love to split this up into 6 different competitions, class 1A and forward. At the present time, this is generally looked at as we have more of a 5A, 6A presentation, and then the 4, 3, 2, and 1 together. So the more people we get, the more we can add divisions there. But based on the participation we've had, we're going to stay with that tier 1, 2, and 3. Your size of your group oftentimes dictates your instrumentation. So that's also whether you can have a full front ensemble like some do, or whether you don't have a front ensemble, and whether you have a full cymbal section with 4 or 5, or whether you have 1, definitely based on the size. So the size of the school and the size of the performing group count and then Vina does her metric magic, and we come up with where we are, tiers 1 through 3, and the middle school, high school division.
All right, as we move to our next topics, I have a group. I'm getting them prepared for our competition in October. What can I expect with regard to the judging and the clinic process of the actual day of my performance?
So there will be a judging, there'll be a trio of judges that are actually judging and providing your critiques as you go forward. They're the ones that are going to actually rank you during the on-the-field performance. So you'll receive comments from them as well as your ranking from them. You'll get your written comments back from those 3 judges. They are the 3 that are going to judge your whole tier. So those folks aren't going in and out. Additionally, with our clinicians are watching you perform on the field as well. They do not have a vote in how you rank. They do not have a vote in what your criticisms will be, or your written critiques. However, they'll then walk with you to the designated area, and they'll walk back through your performance. Again, I believe the clinician time is as important as anything in this opportunity, because it's a time for them to come back and say, hey, have you ever thought of trying this? Or, hey, I liked what you did there, but what about this? Or let me give you a couple of quick lessons and see if you don't like the way this sounds better. The judging criteria from the 3 judges will be technique and execution. That's your musicianship, your overall performance effect, and your overall performance content. So the harder the music you provide, and the better you accomplish it, you're going to be ranked higher. So judging criteria is musicianship, overall performance effect, and overall program content.
Okay, so beginning June 1, from a TAPS perspective, we move into our summer phase of our rules and governance. What can I expect? What are the limitations, restrictions? What can I do or not do as I move through the summer and look toward the fall?
We've had numerous opportunities to talk with the athletic side over the last week or so, because their practices are very scripted. They're allowed 15 contact hours over the course of the week. They can only do certain things at certain times, certain people involved. Summer practice for the fine arts is totally a different animal. So the summer practices for you, when you can get back on campus, when you can start working with your students, we don't govern that. We have basically said TAPS is moving to the summer options with our contact hours, et cetera, June 1st. So beginning June 1, whether you continue working virtually or not virtually with your students, that's going to be between you and your principal, or you and your head of school. Summer practices are allowed. TAPS has no restrictions. So at this point, it's good for us to be able to say, whenever you're ready to hold tryouts, it's up to you and your local school to determine what's best for you at that point.
Okay, we got a question here about the competition. It says, I've been to other competitions where they do an audio and a written comments. Is there any possibility that at some point in the future, TAPS could move to doing audio comments as well?
Our plan this year was for audio comments. Technical difficulties kept that from occurring. Basically, they were sitting on concrete and they were pretty close, and our audio didn't work well in that situation. However, our goal is to have audio comments throughout, so you can anticipate that answer being a yes as we move forward. You'll get your digital and your written comments.
All right. Next topic, COVID in the fall. What are our thoughts on what the fall is going to look like from a TAPS perspective?
So again, we're hearing from heads of school and principals and folks all across TAPS of this myriad of different opportunities to participate in classrooms. So some schools are going to go a week in class, a week out of class. We have a school that's going to take every Friday off. We have some schools that are going to do an A and a B day. A day you're in school, B day you're doing virtual. We have some that are considering going all virtual. But the big concern here is what happens if COVID comes back in the fall, or the next opportunity, will I still be able to participate? So again, if COVID shuts you down, if your principal or your head of school says, you know what, we're not going to come to school as a precaution, a health precaution, then in-person practices will probably go away, because if you can't be there for school, then being there for the curricular, extracurricular would not occur. You'd have to go back to the digital format you used this spring. However, if they close school and they say, hey, we're going to keep the kids out for a week, or we're going virtual, as long as they allow, you need to coordinate with your principal. TAPS has no restriction if your school is just on a scheduled off day or scheduled virtual day, you having in-person practices. So in-person practices, if it's non-COVID related, would be up to you. We had another question earlier submitted that before we got here, what happens if I can't make the actual TAPS competition? Well, we are definitely, just like we did in the spring for instrumental music and large bands and choirs and solos and smalls, we're definitely looking at an opportunity that if COVID-19 shuts us down for that October 19 date or thereabouts, being able to do the competition in a virtual format. It's not the format we want, but we also understand it may be impacting schools. So if you would ask me to pick a county in the state of Texas that would be shut down right now, Potter County and Amarillo would not have been that county. I would have probably picked Dallas or one of the Harris down in Houston area. But if your county gets shut down, we will definitely do everything we can to make sure your students from a virtual environment would get to participate as well. So Will's got a couple of clips here from what we had last year. We'll just walk through those. We have a multitude of tier 1, 2, 3 in middle school, high school. This competition has grown. We're so excited to be able to present this opportunity for our young musicians across TAPS. We hope that you'll consider it. If you've got folks that haven't come in the past, we encourage you to reach out and see if you can't get them to come this year. And as we conclude, we'll move on to the question side. If there's any other questions, Robert, let me know and we'll see what we can do to help people.
I don't see any other questions at this time. If you have one right quick, please type that in for us. We'll try to address it. Give you a couple of seconds there.
Info, info at taps.biz is our email. Info at taps.biz is the email. And our phone number, 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268. Feel free to reach out to us once Vina gets to getting back in the game. She's been out ill for a little bit, but once she gets back in the game, we'll definitely answer those questions as best we can. As you move forward and your summer presents itself, if you have things that you think will be a hurdle or considerations, please let us know. The more information we have, the better we can assist you. This is one of the opportunities we're proud to offer for our fine arts students in the fall. Drumline has been a great competition so far, and we look to a really great 2020 opportunity.
Okay, John, I think that does it. So if you close us out, thanks everyone for joining us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Will and Steve, for being with us today. Folks, one more time, this webinar has been recorded. So if there's somebody on your campus who needs to hear this information but couldn't be with us today, you'll be able to send that on to them. If you have any other questions, if you think of something later, please don't hesitate to send us an email, info@taps.biz, or call us at the office. You folks have a good Thursday, and hopefully we'll see you in the fall.